Pop out there, grab, boom, here, leg down, huge, up, down, huge.
Jakishi was on track to become the next big Minecraft YouTuber until he was cancelled over 40 times in less than 7 days.
40?
Who is Jakishi, what did he do, and how has his life been impacted as a result of these actions? Let's begin by looking at an early video posted to his Twitter, during which Jakishi would give a quick overview of who he was.
Hello, my name is Jakishi Demetrius. I'm a 22-year-old Minecraft and just chatting streamer, and I've been streaming for like 7 years. My favorite part about streaming is the fact that I get to meet awesome people and make amazing friends.
There were definitely some elements of weird in this introductory video, such as him calling himself a cat boy.
It's time for my lore. I'm a cat boy.
While showing his cat ear collection before stating this.
I can meow if you want.
But for the most part, this video was fairly innocent, with his solid reputation being summarized by the countless positive replies. In other Twitter threads, Jakishi was described as not only one of the best people I know, but also one of the best and most hardworking CCs I know, helping Jakishi to get noticed by Dream, who randomly raided Jakishi's Twitch channel.
Wait, what? 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 Huh? Hello? What? There's no way. Wait, yo, what the what? Welcome everybody. What the? Hello and welcome to the stream, everybody. What? I'm trying not to cry. Thank you guys so much. You love my nails. Thank you. Thank you for all the gifteds. Thank you for all the biddies, the follows. Dream, yes, actually Dream.
Before Dream would double down on the kind gesture by donating $2,000 to him.
Woo!
Dream, sorry.
There's no freaking way. A $2,000 donate. Dream.
Anybody want to donate $2,000 to me?
What the heck? Thank you so much. What?
According to a former friend by the name of Pocket, Jakishi was an extremely hard worker and therefore deserved the recognition.
Jakishi was somebody who always worked hard, you know, he never gave up, he kept things pushing when his support wasn't there, and this is just well deserved, man. I'm just super happy for you, so congratulations, Jakishi.
And to the credit of Jakishi, he was extremely grateful for the shout out, posting on Twitter, "Invest in Jakishi stonks right now. Thank you, Dream was taken. You and your community are amazing," which received replies of further praise such as, "You deserve it, you seem so chill." After being rated by Dream, Jakishi's Twitch viewership exploded.
Jakishi was getting like 30 to 60 viewers per stream. This is game changing. Now he's getting a couple hundred.
While almost every single tweet he'd post began to receive between 100 and a couple thousand likes.
And he's getting like thousands of likes per tweet now, like 1 to 2,000, which is insane, bro, like just overnight.
Additionally, his follower counts grew to 57,000 on Twitch, 27,000 on TikTok, 7,000 on YouTube, and more than 10,000 on Twitter, with this growth being highlighted in a tweet reading, "I'm still so shocked that I went from like 1.5k-ish to 11.5k-ish in like 4 days. You guys are bonkers," which once again prompted reply after reply of people reiterating just how much he deserved to grow. However, Jakishi's biggest success would come 4 months after these tweets, when he'd announced on the 24th of October 2021 that he'd been invited by Dream to join his SMP. What's this?
What's an SMP?
I'm one of the newest members of Dream SMP. Can't wait to make new friends and great memories. The reason this post received over 26,000 likes and hundreds of positive comments was because being invited to the Dream SMP was like winning the lottery for Minecraft content creators. For example, Tommy Innit gained 8 million subscribers in the 12 months after he joined the Dream SMP, while almost every other member has an extremely recognizable name as a partial
What? That's way too many names to recognize them.
result of the server's influence. Therefore, being invited to the Dream SMP gave Jakishi an extremely high probability that he was going to be one of the next big names amongst that group, with his Twitch gaining over 32,000 followers after announcing that he joined the server. Jakishi instantly began to exhibit the same kind of outlook and attitude as these other Minecraft streamers, making a Twitter post only one day after being accepted into the SMP reading, "So I had something brought to my attention that one of my new mods said something that wasn't okay in any circumstance. They have been unmodded because that doesn't fly with me at all. That isn't the kind of stuff I want in my chat, not from mods, not from anyone. Love you guys." For people asking for context, there was something said about self-harm and it wasn't okay, with this post seemingly try to establish the idea that he was of good morals and could do nothing wrong, which also seemed to be the goal of his countless other tweets, where he was trying to come off as extremely nice and overly accepting of others. However, you should always be cautious cautious of a creator who seems too nice, because everybody has an unseen dark side, and perhaps Jakishi's overwhelming kindness was nothing more than a cover-up for his own horrible past.
Ooh, let's go.
My experience with Jakishi/Demetrius popped up on the 26th of October 2021, only 2 days after he was accepted into the Dream SMP. It had been posted by a user named Ren, who had attached a tweet longer which read as follows. Due to the recent event of him joining a considerably large content creator group and gaining exponentially more exposure, I feel like it's my responsibility to bring this to light in order to prevent this person from taking advantage of more young girls. The tweet longer then explained that the two had begun talking when she was 14, Jakishi was 18 or 19, and that things had gotten heated in the chat pretty quickly. The two had joked about sending pictures to each other, which they would eventually do, and had also talked about meeting up, quote, "If we would have met up that summer, I would have been 15 while he was 20, alone in a hotel with a man who said that he would try to not make sexual advances on me." The post concluded by stating, "I can no longer ignore it, as his audience of young and impressionable girls is growing by the second. I blocked him on Snapchat, Twitter, and Instagram several months ago after we eventually grew apart, and have not spoken to him since. I also know that I was not the only underage girl that he was sexual with." Ren had all of the screenshots
no
to match.
way. Okay, I'll just go off myself then. No, you. I'm kidding. I was gonna cry. OMG. No, I wouldn't go out like that. SMH. I just wanna call. Yeah, you haven't even sent nudes yet. You can't die, SMH.
The expose receiving over 50,000 likes, it was only going to be so long until Dream realized what was going on, who would take to his private Twitter in a post reading, "Remove Demetrius from the SMP for gross accusations that he also confirmed privately were accurate. No questions, no toleration. Disgusted and incredibly disappointed." Will never let things like this stop me from trying to uplift members of the community and smaller content creators. It's part of what makes our community great. So stick together, be there for people who need it, and always be safe online. However, Jakishi being removed from the Dream SMP was really only the beginning of his problems. On the original expose, a user by the name of Mackerel had replied by stating, "My friend had a bad experience with him too," indicating that Jakishi may have been a repeat offender. Well, over the next 24 hours, 18 different people came forward explaining that they had had a similar experience. We talked on Discord and it started out innocent until he suggested that we add each other on Snap. He'd bring up my age pretty often and always ask me if I'd never tell anyone because he doesn't want to get exposed like he is right now. Like this was his biggest fear. He brought it up so often that I don't know how I missed the fact that he had other victims. The funny thing is that after I turned 18, he never interacted with me in a sexual way again. I was a young minor, 12 to 14, not saying
Jesus Christ.
specific age. I told him I wasn't comfortable with those jokes and how he needed to stop. He never stopped. He continued. I didn't want to completely cut connections with him because I trusted him. He was my best friend and I didn't want to lose the person I enjoyed talking to.
He was your best friend at 12?
We were 11/12. We lied about our age and said I was 13. We were on a Discord server with Jakishi. We ended up DMing each other because of a mutual friend and became pretty good friends. At first he seemed nice and we had a pretty normal relationship, but about a month or so in, it became very weird. He would ask to call us constantly even when I said no, and make NSFW jokes to us even when we said we were uncomfortable. By the following day, the count of allegations had reached 30, and by the end of the week, approximately 41 people had come forward, all of which citing a very similar experience. Jakishi's bizarre post from earlier, requesting that his fans apply to be his children, had suddenly aged incredibly poorly, to the extent that he didn't even try to issue any kind of apology, and instead simply disappeared from the internet. His Twitch channel was terminated for breaking terms of service, while he deleted every single video from his YouTube channel. His TikTok was deleted, his Instagram was erased, and even his merch store was taken down completely. The only piece of remaining Jakishi social media is his Twitter, which sits vacant following his final tweet of nothing more than the word Minecraft with a smiley face. So where is he now? Jakishi was smart enough to never give out his surname, possibly because he knew he might end up in this situation, and as a result there's very little info on what ended up happening to him. There are Reddit threads such as this one questioning whatever happened to Jakishi after the drama, although besides from some people hoping that he ended up in prison, the only information we have is, for all we know, he disappeared.
Until? Oh, no, that's literally it. Damn, that's it? They're just gone? Crazy.
Before filing for bankruptcy, 50 Cent was spending $108,000 per month to rent an 18-bedroom mega mansion, while T-Pain's bankruptcy was so brutal that by the end of it, he had to borrow money just to buy Burger King. However, let's begin by talking about DMX, who had to file for bankruptcy on 3 separate occasions as he couldn't afford child support. You see, DMX had 17 children with 11 different women, and almost every child resulted in some kind of lawsuit or child support requirement. For example, DMX was sued for $1.5 million worth of child support in 2008 after a genetic test confirmed that he was the father of a previously unclaimed baby, which when combined with his declining music career resulted in his first bankruptcy filing. 4 years later in 2012, DMX was sued by a different ex-partner for a further $1 million worth of child support, and a year after this lawsuit he'd file for bankruptcy a second time.
Damn.
His third bankruptcy would occur in 2016, during which
Homie needs to wrap it up, dude. Get a condom. Holy shit. Did you hear about the Seth, the programmer, cancellation? No, I didn't.
It would be discovered that DMX had racked up a further $1.7 million worth of unpaid child and family support, which accompanied $950,000 in bank debt and $1.7 million worth of tax debt. Since he had $0 in his bank account, DMX was sentenced to 6 months in prison for the child support, a further year in prison for the unpaid taxes, and was also ordered to pay the government $2.29 million in restitution after he was released from his time behind bars. However, DMX never had the chance to pay the amount back in full, as he'd die in April 2021, and despite his extensive family tree, DMX never wrote a will, meaning that his family was still involved in money-related legal battles even after he was dead and buried. Tiger was certainly better at managing his—
Damn. That actually sounds kind of sad. DMX just literally got fucked by child support. He should have, I guess, wrapped it up, but I also think those women probably should have gotten abortions. Like, Jesus Christ. Like, they're asking for so much money from that guy who literally is constantly filing bankruptcy. I don't know. Like, that's... To put that all on DMX, I think is pretty cringe. That's as much on DMX as it is those women for having those kids. If not, maybe more, because the women after the fact can also choose to terminate the pregnancy.
His child support payments, although he definitely had a weakness when it came to luxury spending.
The wild situation, the dude made Keemstar and his lackeys look like good people when he went on his stream. You have like a link?
After cultivating his career as a successful rapper, Tiger's name entered news headlines after he'd purchased a $200,000 Mercedes Maybach for his girlfriend, while being $480,000 behind in rental payments on a luxury Malibu home. As a result, Tiger was sued by his landlord, although he'd failed to show up to court as he was on holiday in Turks and Caicos. Yet this situation wasn't the only example of Tiger spending big in one area while being financially behind in another. For example, in 2016, while shopping for a new Bentley, Tiger's Ferrari 458 was repossessed in the parking lot as Tiger hadn't been paying for the loan. Despite this, Tiger would go on to purchase another Mercedes Maybach, as well as a Land Rover, a Rolls-Royce Ghost, and a Rolls-Royce Cullinan, all of which were repossessed for non-payment, while he was seen looking at a brand new Lamborghini. In addition to this, Tiger was sued by a second landlord for $181,000 after once again missing rental payments in 2016, which was followed by a third property-related lawsuit in 2020, where Tiger had racked up over $200,000 in damages and unpaid rent on yet another rental property. It was then revealed that Tiger was being court-ordered to pay for $200,000 worth of unpaid jewelry, which accompanied the accusation by his ex-girlfriend Black China that he'd been missing child support payments. And just to add a cherry on top of the cake, while all of this was going down, Tiger was in $890,000 worth of tax debt to the government. Despite all of this, Tiger is still seen flexing a lavish life on social media, which is a luxury unavailable to rap producer Scott Storch, who blew through $70 million in less than 3 years. Scott had earned this money by producing for some of the biggest names in music, including Kanye West, Dr. Dre, and Jay-Z. Yet Scott Storch's insane net worth began to diminish after he'd purchased an insane supercar collection,
30 cars, including Bugattis and Ferraris and all that kind of stuff,
as well as a $10.5 million mansion where he housed more than 20 staff, including a boat captain, just in case he he wanted to go out on his yacht.
The captain was on full-time staff?
Yeah.
In case you want to take the boat out?
Yeah.
And the boat was how many bedrooms?
7,
7-bedroom boat, worth about how much?
20 million.
20 million.
Scott went on to explain just how much this
Wowee.
lifestyle was costing him.
My monthly overhead for my household employees was somewhere in the neighborhood of $1 million a month I was spending.
And that if he continued to work, there wouldn't have
way.
been any problems, although this isn't what he would do.
It went from me working and delivering to doing drugs and not going to the studio.
I just stopped working, and then I got depressed and jaded.
As mentioned, Scott stopped making music and instead began to get addicted to the nightlife in Miami. And with no money coming in plus $1 million a month going out, it was only going to be so long before Scott hit zero. By 2009, just 3 years after having a net worth of $70 million, Scott had filed for bankruptcy. 6 years later, Scott would file for bankruptcy a second time, claiming to have a grand total of $3,600 of assets to his name, $100 in cash,
Wow.
$500 in
Where can I send the
clothing,
links?
and a
In,
$3,000
Twitch
watch.
offline chat.
Most shocking, his music
Or in
companies are valued at
Discord, you can add
$0, and in 2014 he made a grand total of only $10,000. Throughout this
bad.
hardship, Fat Joe was one of the only rappers to keep their
bad.
friendship with Scott, possibly because Fat Joe went through a similar situation himself. Fat Joe had earned $1.18 million in 2007, $1.28 million in 2008, $265,000 in 2009, and $630,000 in 2010. However, despite having made this $3.3 million in only 4 years, Fat Joe failed to pay taxes on it. He was able to come up with $718,000 and had also done extensive charity work. However, this wasn't enough to satisfy the judge, who sentenced Fat Joe to 4 months in prison. Despite taking personal responsibility for his actions by stating, "There was a lot going on in the years that I didn't file my taxes, but it was my responsibility," less than 4 years later, Fat Joe entered news headlines again after the IRS revealed that he still owed them $1.1 million in taxes. However,
Bro,
this number was
what?
absolutely nothing in comparison.
What? How does he owe? What was that? Be like 1.9 million on $3 million of taxes? Or $3 million of revenue?
Of Fat Joe's friend Lil Kim, who owed almost 4 times more and became, quote, too poor to file for bankruptcy. Lil Kim wasn't nearly as successful as some of the other rappers featured on this list. However, this didn't stop her from purchasing a $2.3 million mansion back in 2002, notably with the help of a mortgage. Throughout the 2000s, Kim's music career slowed dramatically, and by 2018, Kim was filing for bankruptcy as she still owed the full $2 million on her property, despite the 16 years that had passed. In addition to this, Kim now owed $1.85 million to the government for 13 years worth of unpaid taxes, which accompanied a further $185,000 in unpaid legal fees. The bankruptcy became even worse after discovering that by 2018, Kim was earning a comparatively small $18,000 per month, of which $2,000 went to staff, another $2,000 went to clothing, and $10,000 went to travel fees.
Wait, what? That only leaves $4 grand for everything else? How do you afford food?
She had less than $4,000 per month to dig herself out of $4 million worth of debt. Somehow Lil Kim managed to quote,
Oh, that's per month. I thought that was per year. My bad. Oh, I thought that was my Discord, not yours. I thought that was per year. I was like, how the fuck do you spend $4,000 a year on food alone? I didn't realize it was per month.
get her finances into good shape, and her bankruptcy filing was dismissed. However, MC Hammer wasn't quite so lucky. Despite having the 5th best-selling hip-hop album of all time, which sold 17 million copies and featured songs such as You Can't Touch This, MC Hammer wasn't able to stay out of financial trouble. He bought more than 17 luxury cars, a private jet, 2 helicopters, and 21 racehorses. Some of the horses were valued at around $1 million. Most of his expenses, however, were on his home. He bought a property in Fremont, California for $12 million and spent another $30 million on renovations to turn it into his dream home. He added a bowling alley, basketball court, baseball field, recording studio, movie theater, 17-car garage, tennis courts, and 2 swimming pools to the 40,000 square foot mansion. One of the pools was shaped like
40,000 square foot, holy shit.
his signature baggy pants that came to be known as Hammer Pants. He added several marble statues of himself throughout the property and installed a gold hot tub in his bedroom. And to keep everything running smoothly, he employed a staff of nearly 200 people on the property, which cost him an estimated $500,000 a month. Unsurprisingly, less than 5 years later, MC Hammer had filed for bankruptcy, at which point it would be revealed that he hadn't only spent his entire $70 million fortune, but had also taken on a further $13 million in loans, which had been borrowed from over 200 different lending institutions. Despite having spent a total of $42 million on his California dream home, the property resold for only $6.5 million. However, if we're on the topic of expensive homes being repossessed by the bank, we need to talk about Birdman, who's ranked as the 15th richest rapper in the world with a net worth of $110 million. But this is what makes Birdman's story unique.
Right behind
If he was
Snoop.
worth over $100 million, why was his Miami mansion being repossessed by the bank for non-payment? Birdman had purchased the home back in 2012 for $14.5 million, yet by 2017 a foreclosure suit had been filed by the bank, and quote, all personal items within the home, including platinum records gracing the walls, a pool table and dozens of pairs of shoes, were all confiscated and placed in storage. The mansion was eventually sold by the bank for $10.85 million in July 2020. However, Birdman's lawyer has come out to explain the foreclosure, stating that it was the result of illegal loan terms set by the bank, so perhaps take Birdman's bankruptcy with a grain of salt. However, there's no ambiguity around how T-Pain went broke, as he's now come on multiple podcasts to explain just how brutal his bankruptcy was. T-Pain had built up a net worth of over $40 million at his peak in 2007, with all of his closest rap friends advising him that as long as he kept rapping, the money would keep on coming in.
Everybody before me that I had to look up to, they were just like, no, this is great. Once you start rapping, it's just money all the time. Nothing bad's ever gonna happen. Your family's not gonna come after you. Just rap, and it's just girls and swimming pools after this.
For this reason, his spending began to get out of control.
I bought my Bugatti.
You bought it for $2.1 million.
$2.1 million.
And then you, very shortly thereafter, you sold it for, all they gave you was $800,000.
Yeah.
So it was like renting a car for $1.3 million.
Yeah.
With the purchase of his Bugatti accompanying a $400,000 chain and houses for his workmates.
I got this house I want to get.
I feel like I would be such a boring rich person. All I do is make sure I have the most juiced up fucking gaming system and make sure my family is good, and I tell no one. And also I tell no one. And now he's a streamer. T-Pain? Yeah. I would be the exact same way. I would get, well, no. This is the most expensive thing. Me and my brother have talked about if we were like super juicer millionaires, we'd want to make video games, which would cost a lot of money. But the real thing we would do that wouldn't really make any money, but that would be really nice, is we want an incredible shower. I want a really nice shower. Just something that's like with a chair so I can sit down. Nice bathtub. Oh man, that's the sauce. Is getting something like that. It's a nice shower, and yeah, really good gaming stuff setup, like with the HOTAS setup, so that way I can play any flight sim, and a nice racing wheel and chair setup, force feedback, haptic. Yeah, that would be it, pretty much.
This other house for my assistants and, you know, all my runners and my producers and stuff. So we bought a house after that, and we just started going crazy with the money. I wasn't paying attention to it.
Which was extra bad, as T-Pain never even checked in on how much money he had.
I didn't want to know because I was led to believe that this is just it's only gonna grow. Because these rappers told me that I'm just gonna make money forever. It's just gonna keep going up and up.
In the process, T-Pain began to create less music, and within a few years, his accountant was advising him that he was almost out of money.
My accountant was like, dude, you're like out of money. And I was like, no, I'm not.
And while T-Pain seemed confident that he had plenty of cash left, reality set in for him after he'd have to borrow money just to buy food.
When you say you was broke, you had like $0 broke?
I had to borrow money to get my kids Burger King.
What's the most you ever had in the bank at one time?
40 million.
However, T-Pain was lucky to get away with a loss of only 40 million, as the final person on our list makes this number look like loose change, 50 Cent. 50 didn't only release the 10th best-selling American hip-hop album of all time, but he also made over $100 million on a vitamin water investment, plus a further $78 million from a luxury underwear deal. In the late 2000s, 50 Cent made an estimated $300 million in only 2 years, so when he'd announced that he was filing for bankruptcy in mid-2015, with debts totaling over $32 million, the entire world was thinking the same thing. How did this happen? Well, after 50 Cent uploaded a sex tape with Rick Ross's girlfriend, 50 was successful successfully sued for 7
Yeah, avocado adorable. That would be my thing though. Is like if I was gonna do a game development thing, I need to have like a lot of money.
million, which accompanied another court order for 50 Cent to pay 17 million to a headphone manufacturer after one of their collabs went sour. 50 Cent's clothing company
Gyra, I know what you mean. I have anxiety when I check my bank account, but I never really should because I'm always surprised at how little I spend. I'm like, oh wow. Like that couple thousand that I got like last month, it's pretty much all there. That's weird. I guess I just don't spend money.
Unit Clothing then fell out of the spotlight, which accompanied the closing of his movie company G Unit Productions, as well as his boxing company SMS Promotions. Throughout the whole process, the global financial crisis had taken a toll on the value of 50 Cent's investments, and by 2015 he was earning a comparatively small $185,000 per month. You could certainly argue that this was enough for 50 to get back on his feet. However, $108,000 of this monthly income was going toward an 18-bedroom mega mansion, while the remaining $77,000 was going toward menial expenses such as his gardener, with bankruptcy documents revealing that 50 Cent still owed money to his stylist, fitness coach, and even his barber. Despite this, he began to troll on social media with posts such as this one, spelling out the word broke with $100 bills, and within 2 years, 50 Cent had paid back $23 million worth of his $32 million debt.
Not
50
bad.
Cent eventually got back to zero, and according to Google, has built up a net worth of $40 million over the last 5 years.
Not bad. A comeback story. Not bad. All right. Hold up.
I'm snaking. I don't even know how I would snake
2 hours and 50 minutes? What is
How would I
this?
snake any of these people in question? Wasn't dishonest or lie or anything. Did you and Clyde fall out about an Arc vs. Each Goat? No, that's cringe. Stop being cringy. I'm not gonna lose a friend over like 7 years because of fucking anime. Like, you gotta get over that. Yeah, I don't lie to people. Like, I'm not like snaky. I'm very like, when it comes to my relationships with people, I always tell people like what I think and how I feel.
I don't know what the fuck this is. This is some like shit I don't know about. Pretty sure 50 has way more than 40 now. I don't know. All right, let's take a look at this.
How you doing?
I'm doing great. Okay, with this whole thing, I know you said that you don't want to talk about the drama surrounding the deepfake stuff, but I made a Pepe Sylvia tier chart for it, and I wanted to get your opinion.
Sure, link me.
I can, sent you a picture of it in the DMs.
Okay, hold on. Can I link this on stream?
Yeah. So I was just like kind of going through and seeing like what is weird, what is normal, right? I think there's some things that are weird and normal, like the idea of a dude like jerking off to a safe for work picture that maybe he sees on Instagram, right?
Mm-hmm.
It's weird, but I think it's more normal than we'd like to admit, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I don't think it's like
I think it's fine.
necessarily morally wrong unless you go up and tell her about it, right?
Sure.
But making deepfake
Reasonable.
porn of somebody, I have actually changed my mind on this. I think that making deepfake porn of someone is weird, but morally neutral unless you tell other people about it or other people know about that deepfake porn. If it's just something that you have for your own personal use, I have no problem with it.
Okay.
Okay.
I'm fine with that.
Hi, what's up, Pixie? Wait, did you have anything you wanted to get out of your...
No, I mean, I was just getting that off my chest.
Well, hold on. What changed your mind? You can't just say I changed my mind and then not say what changed your mind. What changed your mind?
Previously, I thought making deepfake porn of somebody else is wrong because you don't have their consent. But what changed my mind is I started thinking about how often do we seek people's consent when we when we think about them, right? When we think normal things about them. We don't need consent to think about people, and certainly there are a lot of people in the world who don't get people's consent before they like jerk off to the thought of them, right? So making deepfake porn of somebody, as long as it's only for your personal use and nobody else gets access to it, then I guess I don't really see what would be wrong with that. I guess it's kind of like an expression of your thoughts.
Okay.
Okay.
Why? Because I'm not delusional.
At the time, I don't have ultra strong thoughts on this yet, so I'm listening and I'm learning. But okay, I'm acknowledging what you're saying. Gotcha. What did you want, Pixie?
So I kind of disagree with the take that it's like morally neutral as long as the person doesn't know about it. And the reason why I think this is because I do think there's a difference between just using your imagination and then purposely trying to make it as close to physical reality as you possibly can.
Wait, can you specify what close to physical reality? What does that mean?
It means that you know you're never going to get into that person's pants or whatever, or be able to see them in that sexual context. Like, they're not going to make that content. So you're going to make it as realistic as you possibly can to see them in that context in real life, like a physical proponent to it, than just imagining it in your head. You're actually materializing something.
Why is it any worse to like draw something or deepfake something versus imagining it?
Because it seems like, this is a kind of complicated to explain. It seems like there's a barrier, a boundary that you cross when you're just imagining something versus actually taking steps to it. So a similar example, I guess, or analogy or whatever, would be the difference between like intrusive thought, or not even intrusive, like let's say like I want to kill this person, like they're annoying me, versus writing it down in your notebook exactly how you're going to do it, buying the knives, buying the rope, buying all the materials you possibly need.
Well, we would say because the underlying idea is inherently bad. If having sex with somebody isn't inherently bad, then like you're just doing a fantasy of something that is perfectly ethically fine. And the example she gives, you're enacting steps closer to a fantasy that is inherently ethically like unethical.
But buying those materials is not it doesn't seem analogous to making a deepfake porn of somebody.
Wait, let's back up. Let's just focus on this initial thing. I think that this is disanalogous because an intrusive thought versus a highly detailed plan are two different things. If you had an intrusive thought and you wrote those intrusive thoughts down, I think that would be similar, but I don't think people would care either way. So for instance, let's say that I thought that like, I hate this person, I want to kill him, and I just had a notebook where I wrote down intrusive thoughts. I don't think anybody would care that much about the difference between the two. Unless they found it, they might figure it's kind of weird, but.
Well, the point is that when you're making a deepfake, you are taking it a step further. You're actually to me, the deepfake, actually making the deep.
So like a better analogy would be rape. If I had like a fantasy about raping somebody and it was just like a fantasy or whatever, kind of like some CNC shit, like there's like a large proportion of people who have fantasies about rape but don't actually want rape to happen, right? It's like it's a thing. It really is. And there was there was controversy over I don't want to say incels, but I know there was some. I'll just say it. I'll say incels because I've earned the right to be able to say incels and not have it just be a derogatory thing. I think there was a big thing where incels and like red pill people were saying because there was some study or something that showed that like how often women orgasmed when they were raped and how common rape fantasies are amongst women. It's like extremely common. And they use this as an argument to say that women actually enjoy rape, and that they, are like primitive or some shit like that. And I think there is a severe difference, even amongst some of the women that I've talked to, because I have actually talked to women who do like rape fantasies. They recognize that it's just that, a fantasy, and that it's not something that they can actually do. It's an unachievable fantasy that's like they wouldn't ever hope to actually have something like that happen because it's, a terrible traumatic experience. I think a similar thing can happen with this. Let's say I have a rape fantasy. Now that's one thing, whereas if I start buying rope or planning to like go meet this person I'm having a rape fantasy of, that's like, whoa. That's more analogous to the murder fantasy thing, because I'm already fantasizing about something that's a little bit unethical. And as long as it's a thought, it's not that big of a deal. It's no harm, no foul. But then when it starts materializing, it's like, okay, this is no longer just a fantasy or something. You're trying to make it a reality. So yeah, I don't think the rape fantasy, the murder fantasy is a good analogy.
Fake is going from just thinking it in your head, writing it down privately, to material steps to then.
I don't believe in the idea of creating something if it's not to show it. Like, why would you take the risk? I actually had a conversation about this with other people, like my normal IRL friends. And because a lot of them are STEM lord, whatever cringe weirdo neats, and they presented something that's just incredibly true. What's going to happen is we're going to have deepfake technology where on your computer you can just type things in and have a deepfake like short video come as a result of what you type in, right? And so what's going to happen is people aren't going to create these things like intentionally in a premeditated fashion and take a lot of time. What's going to end up happening is you're going to take the software that you've been using primarily to create funny memes to show your friends, like I referenced earlier, of like Willem Dafoe saying stupid shit. And you're going to realize, oh yeah, I can just type in porn of X person doing X. And then it's going to happen. So it's just going to be software that you can use for anything that can also be used for porn. And people are just going to type porn scenarios into it. That's all that's going to happen. And so I think there is a very large group of people that are going to use this tool just like, I don't know, playing a video game. They're just going to like a romance option in a video game, like a side quest. They're just going to be playing the main game, and when they're feeling a little spicy or something like that, they're just going to go on over to the dark side, and that's going to be the end of it.
Commit the murder or whatever.
What do you mean? What is committing the murder in this analogy, though? Like raping the person or having sex with them, or?
It's getting as close as you possibly can. So you might not actually rape the person, but the point is that you don't really care about whether they're comfortable being seen in that specific light or not. You're trying to get as close as you can.
I don't understand how deepfake gets you any closer to having sex with a person as...
No, viewing them in that sexual, or not viewing them in the sexual light, viewing them in that, or maybe intimate light is the right word, I'm not sure. But for example, when you're doing the deepfake porn, when you're putting that person's like face on there, rendering it so that the images like match the face, all that shit, you are basically, you'd want to see porn of them, you'd want to record it if you could, you'd want the real thing, but you can't get the real thing. And instead of being content with that or making it stay in your imagination, you feel like you have to take...
I don't also agree with this. Again, like I said with the rape fantasies, there are certain sexual fantasies that we can think of that we would not want ourselves. For instance, another great example is I've watched porn of like, I've watched like homewrecker porn. I do not want to cheat. That is like one of the things I stand by to the end of my days is I refuse on morals to cheat, but I've watched porn that depicts that. I've watched all kinds of porn. Other great examples. I don't know why I didn't think of this. Fucking, incest porn, right? You don't want to fuck your mom, but you absolutely watched like fucking mob stepmom porn. You don't want to fuck your sister. You've watched sister stepsister porn. These things are just because you look up porn of it does not mean, or fantasize about it, does not mean that if you were given the opportunity, you would do it. It means that in a reality that your mind is capable of fantasizing about, it would be cool for that to happen. That's it.
The actual steps in reality.
Hey, nice job, Tom.
To see that.
Wait, you were suspended on YouTube?
Even though they're not comfortable with that.
I guess I'm just not saying how that's meaningfully different than having like a detailed fantasy of that person.
Yeah, you don't ask people's consent to fantasize about them.
You don't feel like you don't see like there's a difference between just, in your mental realm versus putting the work and the effort and the time in to make it some sort of physical reality?
I think a lot of people, so the example that got me thinking about this is there are a lot of dudes, I'm sure, and ladies who have jerked off to like a safe for work picture of somebody that person has posted on social media, right?
Yes.
I assume so, sure.
Yeah, and generally it's not.
I would say literally everybody above the age of like 22 has done this. And if you say no, I haven't done that, you're lying. I tend to make rules like this, and it might be true that maybe you haven't, but I just won't trust you. If you say to me, I've never jerked off to like a safe for work picture of another person and I'm above the age of 22, I can't trust you. It's just something about me. I can't trust you as a person. I just feel like there's such a high chance that you're lying. And even if you aren't lying, it's fucking weird.
I hear an echo. That's generally not it's not an issue unless you tell somebody that you did that, right? It only becomes weird when you tell that person, but you don't ever ask for that person's consent when you do something like that. Like most young people who are doing stupid stuff.
Why is this such a big deal? Because there's some people that are unironically saying, like Maya's tweet that heavily, well, I think it's just straight up like explicitly that was comparing rapists to people who watched, not produced, people who watched deepfake porn. If you watch deepfake porn, you are similar to a rapist. Here, let me get the exact Maya. Can I just look up Maya Twitter? Is that gonna work? Oh yeah, it did work. Let's see if I can't find it. Yeah, here it is. Okay, let's take a look. Let's take a bit of a peek. Just that way I'm not misrepresenting what they're saying. In 2018, I was inebriated at a party and I was used for a man's sexual gratification without my consent. Today, I've been used by hundreds of men for sexual gratification without my consent. The world calls my 2018 experience rape. The world is debating over the validity of my experience today. The debate over our experience as women in this, not shockingly amongst men, none of you should care to listen to what any male streamer's take is on how we feel. Multiple problems with this. One, it assumes that it's okay to do to men and not okay to do to women, and any of the men's or male streamers who might be victims of this same situation have not are not actual victims because they're men. We're men and we're not victims because we're men. People making deepfake porn of me shouldn't matter. It should only matter to people like Maya because they're women and because they were born with vaginas. I already disagree with this. I think that's a pretty deplorable and disgusting thing to say about somebody on the basis of their gender, especially when you compare it to rape. You're saying that people consuming deepfakes about you is tantamount to rape. And if you do something tantamount to rape to men, it's not rape. In fact, they're not even victims because they're, men. That's literally what the statement is, right? That it's not men. You don't listen to the male streamer's take on this because apparently no male streamer has been a victim of a deepfake when I can literally find probably at least a dozen male streamers whose deepfakes are being used here. And again, I don't want to make a statement here that some people already might be thinking that I'm making, which is that I understand that women are going to have a unique experience in regards to being deep-faked in a sexualized manner in comparison to men. I do not believe, however, as this statement pretty explicitly states, that men are all of a sudden not a victim because of that discrepancy. That discrepancy does not warrant literally being raped, her words, being raped by hundreds of men. That does not excuse that behavior. Like, oh, listen, according to her logic, I've been used by hundreds of men for sexual gratification without my consent. The world calls my 2018 experiences rape, but they're debating the validity of the experience that I'm having right now, directly implying that the experience that she's having right now is being raped by hundreds of men. So when a man is raped by hundreds of men or women, it's not rape because they're a man, but it is rape because it's a woman. This is insanity. What horrible tweet. Horrible. Absolutely terrible. Absolutely terrible. I truly could not imagine making a worse tweet.
They don't think about whether the person wants to be objectified, wants to be sexualized by them. They just are in their head. So I just don't see if somebody makes a
so yeah. But again, really want to drill it into people's minds. There is a unique relationship that women are going to have with being sexualized. And I don't think there's anything wrong with sexualizing people, just to be clear. It only becomes wrong when you objectify, people. Sexualizing people isn't an issue. Objectifying people is, right? So we seem to lose this. Sexualizing women is going to have uniquely negative consequences on their life than it is going to be men. I'm not ignorant to this reality. It's obviously true. Anybody that's lived longer than 2 minutes on planet Earth is going to know this is true. With that being the case, does this make for the discrepancy between it being wrong and it not being wrong? No. The ethics of the situation have no gender. So stop doing that. I hate that. The ethics of this situation have no gender. You cannot, otherwise what you're telling me is it's okay to deepfake men being sexualized, but it's not okay to deepfake women. That's what you're saying to me. Okay, so that's not what you're saying to me. Then we need to deal with whatever the fuck this is. And I just skipped. but you need to deal with the argument as it stands and not just say, well, men can't talk about this issue because apparently men aren't the victims of sexual violence as well. I don't know. This is just truly a terrible take. Anybody should be ashamed of themselves for making such a take.
A deep fake, and it's only for their own personal use and nobody else ever sees it. It's something that they did in their own privacy and with their own thoughts.
Okay.
To be honest, if a woman made a deepfake porn of me, it would be kind of a turn on. And that's going to be, I'm going to assume you're a man. I have no idea. But there is going to be, again, that discrepancy that I think a lot of women might not view it the same way. And I think that's understandable due to, you know, society's messaging and shit like that, or maybe some past experience that woman has had with other people, you know. Can you explain the difference between sexualizing and objectifying? Sometimes women call sexualization objectification, so I think it's unclear to some people the difference. I think that was a very important thing for you to make me do, or request of me that I should have done, and it was irresponsible of me not to. I believe the difference between sexualizing somebody and objectifying somebody is taking some, let's say me, right? Somebody saying that they find me sexually attractive. That's fine. I know that's not objectifying me. It's sexualizing me for sure. It's changing the context of whatever I'm doing into a sexual fashion. However, if I state I don't really like sexual comments like that, please, you know, don't make comments like that. And then you continue to do it. You are objectifying me because you're taking something that I am saying that you shouldn't have a right to do. You shouldn't have a right to just say these things to me without me feeling quite uncomfortable and diminishing, I would say, the standard of living that most people are in, right? You don't have a right to just sit there and just like essentially sexually harass me. That would be sexual harassment. Well, you technically do under the law, but you don't have it's a social thing. Nobody's saying objectifying women is illegal, just to be clear. You shouldn't have a social right to do that. And so, you know, if I tell you, hey, I don't really like that behavior, can you cut that out? Then yeah, you should cut that out because it is directly affecting me. However, in cases where, like in the example given, people are saying, don't masturbate to the idea of me. Well, fuck off. I can do what I want because I can do it without you knowing. What you're saying isn't don't masturbate to me, otherwise you are objectifying me. It's don't masturbate to me and like let me know about it. Don't fucking tell me about it. Don't interact with me in a way that I can obviously tell this is happening because otherwise, you know, that's going to be pretty weird. But the reason why there's that distinction is because it's all about what affects you as a person and what is realistic to affect you as a person. There's a similar debate over, I have had similar debates over cheating. Is it okay to cheat on somebody if you think that they're not ever going to find out? And for me, the answer is no, it's not okay to do so because of even the very small likelihood that they find out. It will completely destroy their trust in another individual. Also, if we accept this as a rule, I think people in general's relationship is going to be worse because we're just going to have a bunch of people who are like, oh yeah, I can hide cheating from my partner, or even if you can successfully hide cheating from your partner, it creates a dynamic that is not sustainable for monogamous relationships. But in the case of masturbating to somebody, we are perfectly capable of jacking off to people and never telling them and having them never know. I promise you, there's a lot of people who don't know what I've whacked to. Like, what do you mean? Like, there's the millions of celebrities, the millions of times that I've thought about celebrities. I guarantee you none of them even know who I am or that I've done it because I'm not fucking blasting it on social medias or whatever, right? You are capable of masturbating to the idea or images of someone without letting them know and without, my bad, some realistic way of them knowing. It's an incredibly normal thing with very little repercussion. It's not that big of a deal. So essentially, long story short, the difference between objectification and sexualizing is the individual's desire for whatever sexual activity is happening and or the individual's ability to have that sexualizing content or whatever affect them in any kind of way, shape, or form.
I'm about to, the line or the scenarios I'm going to propose to you guys are going to seem completely different and out of nowhere, but I promise they'll tie together.
Thanks, E.
Let's say you have a friend, they sleep naked, you're staying in the same house or whatever, and you go at night and you take a photo of them naked, and they never find out. Would that be okay?
No.
Why would it not be okay?
Because you're like actually taking a picture of them for something that I imagine they're trying to conceal.
Okay. Now let's say it turns out that, you know, it was night, it was dark, it was a mannequin. It turns out the person wasn't sleeping in that bed, they were sleeping somewhere else, but you took a photo of the mannequin instead, but you thought it was that person. Would it be okay then?
No.
No, but you're still attempting to do the same thing.
Why?
The intentionality of the action still makes the action itself wrong. The outcome is almost irrelevant. So for instance, let's say I really wanted to murder somebody and I walked into a bedroom and I started stabbing a bed, but it was just a bunch of pillows. The action was still attempted murder in my opinion. So this would still be you doing a wrong thing. I guess the ultimate outcome wouldn't have been a bad thing committed. The action itself was still probably wrong.
Okay. So to me, it's the action of creating deepfakes, not necessarily the jerking off to it, that is wrong. Because the action of creating a deepfake is literally trying to place the image as realistically as possible to see that person nude, even though they don't want to show you themselves nude.
Yeah, but you're not seeing them nude. You're just fantasizing about it.
This is a technicality, right?
Well, no, hold on, wait. It's not a technicality. It is like the most important point. Because if this was capturing a nude photo of somebody, I think ubiquitously we would all say this is a creep shot, it's a candid image. That's bad. I don't think it's a technicality. I think it's probably one of the most important central points of this whole thing, right?
Yeah, no, but the reason why I perceive it as a technicality is because the whole idea is that your brain is not actually processing this deepfake as a separate person. You're not just processing this as like, oh, the body of a separate porn star and then the face of, you know, the streamer I want.
I disagree with this point, and I want to see if Destiny disagrees with it for the same reason. I think that this is bullshit, and the reason why would be if you had the option between a deepfake of like a content creator's porn or a content creator's real porn, most people are going to pick just the content creator's real porn. So people can tell the difference. Your brain can tell the difference. Like, just getting as close to reality doesn't mean anything. You still know it's not reality. And again, at worst, then, your argument would be that you should tell people that it's fake when it's being made or whatever.
You're processing it as a streamer. Otherwise, there would have been no reason to create the deepfake in the first place. The reason it's based on there is because your brain is processing it as that person.
Sure, I understand, but I think it's still meaningfully different. Like if nude pictures of somebody got leaked and then nude deepfakes of somebody got leaked, I think that the feeling would be completely different. Like, yeah, like the deepfakes would be bad and people would be annoyed at that, but like the nude pictures would be actual images of them.
Yeah, and I would say it's not the idea that this is that they're perceiving this as a streamer isn't the part that is the issue. The issue is, are you involving somebody in a sexual act that they didn't consent to? If you are just jerking off to like pictures of a deepfake that you made on your own time, you're not involving that other person. But if you tell them about it, or if you actually have their actual nude pictures, then you are involving them in it.
Okay, there's like two separate arguments going on. There's one that's like, okay.
Oh yeah, there's another discourse that spawned over this. Nude pictures that are online already. Without somebody's consent, can you jerk off to them? I want to know what their response. My response is going to be like, of course. Distributing them, no. I don't think you can distribute them. I think that's unethical. But if you like happen to have one that you stumbled across or whatever, not paying for it or whatever, just making sure that you can have access to it, I think you can jerk off to it.
This is not bad because the consequence, it only matters basically if it's a consequence of them getting hurt. If they don't get hurt, no harm, no foul. I think the action in itself is wrong because I think even if the person doesn't find out, you're still trying to get an image of them that they wouldn't be okay with either way.
I don't know how you can't retroactively think that like if you apply that there, then fantasizing about someone necessarily follows as being wrong, right? Like I don't want to have sex with you. I don't want you to think about having sex with me, but you're doing it and you're imagining a scenario that I don't even want you to imagine. How could that not be the next thing?
Well, I think to be fair, I do think that's kind of wrong, especially the person.
Ooh, it's the RGR thing all over again. It really is.
It's voiced, oh, I don't want to be seen this way. Like, I don't want people to jerk off to me this way, and you're still doing it. Then yeah, like I still think it's wrong. But I think there's still like degrees of wrong. Right? I think one can be okay.
Literal thought crimes.
Like it's creepy, whatever. You shouldn't do that. But then there's taking more physical steps where it becomes like even more grossly wrong. So I think.
Do you think that all forms of like fantasies against somebody's consent would be considered wrong? So for instance, I'm going to assume.
So the thing that me and my brother took this to then is like, can I revoke my consent for people to negatively respond to like my YouTube videos? Can I do that? Because it violates my consent, or is it only because the action is sexual? What about masturbation in sex makes it unique where my consent matters more? Like about you just being alone in your room, nobody knows. What makes that unique? Like, what about just having a negative opinion of me? I do not consent for you to have a negative opinion of me. And any violation of that is a violation of my consent. Like, when we talk about it in a sexual capacity, we're talking about it because it affects another person. somebody there. The reason why consent matters is because consent is necessary to establish a kind of line of trust as to what is okay or not okay for a person to do to another person. But when you're just having a thought or something that can never manifest beyond yourself about another person, it can't affect them. So consent is irrelevant, my opinion.
That you don't want somebody to murder you, but let's say I get really fucking annoyed talking to you, and in my head I have like a detailed fantasy of like I want to fucking kill you. Is that like morally wrong because I'm doing a fantasy that person wouldn't consent to in real life, or because I feel like at that point like all fantasies where the person wouldn't in real life allow it basically become wrong at that point?
I think fantasies where you are basically harming the person in a way, or that could lead to harm to the person, realistically would be considered wrong. So I feel like even if you're, fantasizing about a consensual sex with somebody else, if that person is like, oh my God, well, you know that's technically not possible because they've said it to you many times, oh no, like I'm not okay with this, this is something I'm not okay with. I don't think all fantasies are wrong either. I'm trying to think about how to phrase this.
I think that's kind of where you're at, though. You're at essentially that like fantasies are wrong. Most fantasies are usually things that other people don't consent to, right? That's kind of why they're fantasies. It might be like killing somebody, it might be fucking somebody, it might be owning someone in a work argument or at school or something, or running over a teacher if you hate him, right? Like most fantasies are generally things, or a lot of fantasies at least, are generally things that we can't do in real life because people wouldn't be okay with it. But I feel like we're in a weird world where like we've created, I guess when I think of bad actions, I'm trying to usually think of like some type of either harm or like attempted harm, and I just don't see any harm here at all. Like who's getting hurt? And hurt here can be like a violation of somebody's like autonomy as well. It's like breaking into somebody's house, breaking into somebody's car, getting a picture of like somebody's body, like doing something like that, like the person. Like I could extend harm to mean those things too, but when we're talking about things that exist like purely in the mind or things that don't involve like violating the other person's autonomy.
But you don't think it's an attempt at all? Because I think like, oh yeah, like you're trying to get as close as you can to see that person's body or to see them in that sexual context.
When you say get as close as possible, I feel like there's a big intuition pump where that sounds bad. Getting as close as possible to seeing somebody naked, that sounds really bad. But I think that's because what you're pumping there is the feeling of like getting a picture of them coming right out of the shower, or getting a picture of them coming right out of a locker room, or taking a picture. Like that's what it feels like when you say getting close to. But in this sense, we're not actually getting close at all. If anything, you could say you're getting farther away from it because now you're focused on like doing a drawing or a picture rather than getting more like real pictures of them. So that phrase like getting close to feels not good. Yeah.
And also, if anything, the underlying porn star or like the producers of the original porn with, you know, the people underneath the face that you've replaced, if anything, those people have had their intellectual property possibly like violated, right?
Well, I think legal arguments are a totally separate thing, right?
True, though.
Yeah, it could be still like seen as like not morally good.
Mm-hmm.
To me, I guess it doesn't seem like such a big jump because you're already going, you know, you're already violating that person's boundary in a way of using their images, not just using their images in a way that they didn't consent, but you're actually rendering them onto something that is completely like beyond, I guess maybe I'm just repeating myself, but it just seems like.
No, I want to hear that line of logic because again, I think that line of logic comes back to the idea of if you criticize me online in a way I don't like, I get to say that you're violating my consent and you have to stop that activity. I genuinely think that's where this leads. Anything that I do not explicitly approve of or I explicitly disapprove of, you cannot do in regards to me, which just like we get into the quantum TV act versus act man thing where it's like, you guys didn't like my review of Elden Ring? Well, fuck you. I'm going to try and copyright strike every one of your guys' videos. Like, what do you... I don't know.
If fantasies and okay, here I have it. If fantasies and like deepfake porn are basically the same thing, then why aren't people satisfied with just the fantasy? Why do they have to go to the extent of creating a deepfake porn?
Well, they're the...
Wait, it's a part of the...
When you say basically the same thing, we're also intuition pumping. They're basically the same thing in that they're in the same category of thing, right? Yeah. Like compared to a horse, a Volkswagen and a BMW are basically the same thing. They're cars, right? But Volkswagen cars and BMW cars are way different, right? Much the same that like for a fantasy, like a deepfake and jerking off to the thought of somebody is the same thing in that they're both fantasies, but the two fantasies are different, whereas some fantasies are better than others. A fanfic or a deepfake is going to be better than like an image in your mind or like an Instagram picture, right?
I mean, it's just a different experience. It might not be better or worse. It literally just is just different. There's going to be some people that just don't watch deepfake porn of any of these people because it's just not something that they want. It's not their cash money. You know, there's a million different ways that people who you could be attracted to can be depicted, and there's just sometimes you're just going to prefer certain mediums of fantasy than to others. Like there's some people that still read fan fiction, still read erotic shit when video is out, when deepfakes are getting more sophisticated. And I don't think that shit's gonna go away. Is it gonna get reduced? Yeah, probably. But yeah, that shit's still gonna exist.
Why do you think it's better?
Probably because there's more stimulus. You get like a visual component as well.
Okay, I think that might be where like the biggest contention lies for me, because it's this whole idea of like, oh yeah, it's not just more stimulus, but it's and maybe we're just going in circles and it's just an intuition pump, but it seems like taking the steps to get that more stimulus is already crossing a line, rather than just having it be in your head.
What if somebody's like scrolling through somebody's Instagram to try to find like the sexiest bikini pictures possible? Is that like bad or?
Yeah, I think that's weird.
Well, I didn't ask weird. Don't care about weird. I'm asking if it's like immoral.
Yeah, I think if you're, I think I have to think about this.
That's insane to me. That's so, this is such an insane thing to say.
A little bit more, but I feel like there is something bad about going to somebody's Instagram and trying to find the sexiest photo of them to jerk off to.
So is every like 14?
Yeah, I was gonna say. So then, what do you think are the negative what are the negative consequences of this behavior? Because literally, like most people on Earth have been doing this. So what is the consequence that to these people? Like, is it that they just objectify men and women more? What is the consequence of this action? Because just most people have done this. Just most people.
18-year-old boy who like jerked off to his favorite his favorite pop star, have they done something morally wrong now?
Yeah, I think from her point of view, yeah, I would say so. Wait, here's something I'm interested though. What is the difference between digging through pictures for sexual gratification versus digging through just for like aesthetic enjoyment? Like, so for instance, you would say it's bad to dig through a girl's like bikini photos to go jerk off them on Instagram. Would it be bad for a girl to just go like look at old pictures of a guy because she thinks he's really hot, but she's not gonna masturbate to it?
Yeah, no, that's a societal question.
No, not societal. I'm asking you particularly what you think.
I know, I'm gonna segue into that. Just give me a second.
Okay.
So I think as a society as a whole, we have like very intimate or personal beliefs when it comes to the idea of sex and sexual relationships. We classify that as a category that is very separate from just looking at someone or just seeing something as interesting or fun to look at or hot or whatever. There's a level of intimacy there that I don't think is there when it comes to just pure like general aesthetic purposes.
I think I would break down all of these words because I think it's important to figure out what you mean when you say this. There's an intimacy to a sexual act, not to porn, I don't think, or fantasies.
I think when you're consuming porn with the intent of that porn being like, I guess maybe not, because there's like, well, I guess, this is so complicated because you have porn stars, right? Whose job is to produce porn, and it's okay to watch them in that context. But that's because they're marketing themselves towards that way. So I don't know if there's really an intimacy in watching a porn star. I think there is intimacy in watching someone that usually doesn't do that stuff because they're showing you a side.
Well, let's define when you say intimacy. What do you mean by intimacy? Let's define that.
It means that it is more personal because they are showing they're showing a side of themselves that they usually wouldn't show other people.
Okay, but they're not actually showing you that. You're imagining it, right?
Yeah, you're imagining it.
Like, does a photograph, like, let's say I look at a picture of somebody's swimsuit and I masturbate to it. Did the photograph become more intimate because I masturbated to it?
No, but what I think, or the reason why my brain is processing these two things differently than a deepfake, is that when it comes to a deepfake, you are literally rendering the previous images of a person onto a porn star body, so you can view them as like that porn star as said person.
Yeah,
versus just a random image.
Sure.
It's like there's an intentionality there.
Yeah, of course. You're intending to, because you want to masturbate to it. I'm just trying to figure out how the person is being harmed. Like, where's the harm?
Well, at least what I'm thinking is that there's kind of something really unsettling over the fact that you don't want to be perceived like this by the vast majority of people. And you know what's going to happen anyways, whatever. But then people are trying to take it, and I know you're saying this intuition pump, but it really does seem like there's a difference in level here.
Do you think that when you say people are worried about the perception of others, do you think you have a right to the perception of yourself in other people's minds?
Not 100%, but you do have a right to how your image is, like, to an extent. So, for example, I'm thinking about like Ariana Grande and the fact that she sued Forever 21 for like $10 million because they used her image for their products. For their
that's boring legal shit, of course, yeah.
No, I know that's boring legal shit, but the reason why I bring it up is because it seems like we as a society acknowledge to a certain extent that you have a right to how your image is used in certain contexts. Maybe not all contexts, but in certain contexts.
Well, yeah, but another reason I say boring legal stuff is because this is in like a public like profit setting too. Like privately, you can probably do whatever, but in a public profit setting, it's gonna be different, right?
Yeah. So Forever 21 is a very public, using something for a very public use and even profiting off of it. Whereas using something like making a deepfake that only you yourself have, that only you yourself use, that nobody else is going to have, is very different.
Okay, so to you guys, if the person developed this completely on their computer, away from all eyes, whatever, nobody else is ever going to find out about this, it would be okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, as long as nobody else knows about it or is aware of it. I kind of view it the same way as like the dude who like draws hentai of girls he likes or something. Like, it's weird, but I don't think it's necessarily wrong unless you start telling those girls that what you're doing, essentially.
This is gonna sound completely out of left field, but I'm honestly just curious. Do you feel similarly about somebody who draws like super like photorealistic child porn or something like that? But they keep it to themselves. They're not like.
No, because there is the assumption that child porn in and of itself is like a bad thing because it reinforces a idea inside of somebody's mind that like that's supposed to be the idea behind child porn is you can't look at it because if you look at it you're going to be the assumption is that you're going to be more likely to want to look at more of it, and then that might bleed over into you wanting to do it in real life. The consequences for doing it seem higher because there is no reality where a kid can consent. However, there is a reality where maybe, just maybe, that celebrity could consent. So even with that analogy, it would not hold up.
Bringing that outside or anything.
I think that no, I don't feel the same way about that. I feel like you're encouraging somebody to partake in something bad, I guess.
Well, but how do you not walk right into a trap when you say that, though?
Like, what do you mean?
If CGI child porn encourages people to go rape kids, how does CGI deepfakes not encourage people to go have sex with people they're deepfaking?
I don't know if
it can. I have no, but the issue isn't the encouragement of people wanting to be more, because I actually think it probably does. Like, I think watching, if you're all day, you're watching fucking deepfake porn of, I don't know, X or Y or Z celebrity, you're probably going to have you're probably going to be more likely to want to fuck that celebrity than if you never watched the porn in the first place. Maybe that's not true, but there's no issue with that at its core, wanting to fuck that celebrity. The issue would be wanting to fuck that celebrity against their will. And with children, it's not possible to want to fuck children and not have it be against their will. It's not possible. It is always going to be, you know, unconsensual to have sex with kids. Just putting that out there.
If it's encouraging people to go rape people, but I think it's wrong to do that, period, right? I think it's wrong to do that, period, because, you know, those people are incapable of consenting. And
well, there's nobody consenting, it's just an image, right?
Yeah, but I don't know. I feel like as adults, we kind of expect our images to even be out there. We post our images out on social media all the time, right? I think that there's a difference there.
Wait, I don't know what the difference is. If you
so
have
again, the problem with deepfake porn wouldn't be that it's encouraging people to like the idea of fucking whatever celebrity the deepfake porn is of. The idea would be that it's the problem where it would be problematic is that it's encouraging somebody to rape or without their consent have sex with that individual by force. Like, that's supposed to be the idea, right? I hope that should be the idea, because I can break bread with that idea. Also, I could say that, like, I don't know whether or not watching any different type of pornography of a specific thing will increase your proclivity to want to have sex with that given person or group or whatever. In the case of children versus like a specific person, I don't know. It might even have an inverse correlation. Maybe if you fulfill the fantasy, maybe you're less likely to do that kind of behavior in the wild out there in the world. I don't know. It's just from my current point of view, I think it's probably something that would encourage the behavior.
If you do a CGI picture of a kid, there's nobody being hurt. The person wants to jerk off to it.
But the kid has not like gone through the world and put their picture on social media and stuff like that.
Well, no, if it's a completely like CGI kid, I don't think. Wait, Pixie, are you talking about a deepfake
I
of a
don't
kid,
know,
or are you talking about
Marcus.
a?
Like, I think either one kind of works.
So if it's a picture of a kid.
I'll have to think about it. I will have to think about it for sure. Like I definitely don't like the idea of that. So you know, it's a good point.
I don't know. I think there is something to be said about even doing these actions in private can lead to being more okay with, like, I guess, like casually like sexualizing women in real life. I feel like there is a connection, but I would have to like think about it more or research more. Because even just consuming regular porn has an effect in your real life. So I feel like taking the steps to deepfake a person's photo onto porn is going to affect how you just visualize or talk to that person, or what actions you might take towards that person.
Yeah, I could probably say that's almost certainly going to be true. The question is that change going to be bad enough to warrant a thought crime? Are you going to overly sexualize a person, or are you going to objectify a person as a result of this? Maybe. I don't know. I really don't. We would need more information on it. Just where I stand right now, I am very, 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 very slow to start making thought crimes. And that's what we're talking about here, is the thought crime.
Maybe, but then I feel like that becomes an argument against like basically all pornographic images.
But you don't think there's a gray sliding scale here? You think it's all right? Because I feel like I'm not saying it's super clear where the scale is.
Well, I don't think you believe that argument is what I would say. So for instance, if I could say, let's say that I can demonstrate with 100% pure godlike scientific evidence, I'm God, and I can tell you that people jerking off to deepfakes will actually have absolutely no impact on people's views on those women changing or pursuing in real life. I don't think that would move your argument at all. I don't think you feel any differently about it. So that's why I feel like there's a non.
I don't know. I think it could.
I don't know. I think it's because I view it very similarly to the like nude example or the you took a photo of the mannequin instead of like an actual lady, because it's I think like there is something with the intentionality.
Well, but that's way different, because taking the picture of the mannequin, you tried to take a picture of the real person. Deepfaking is not.
You don't think these people would jump on it or you don't think if these people had an opportunity they would take a picture of the real person?
Yeah, but a lot of people that even don't masturbate to deepfakes probably would. I mean, yeah, there's a ton of guys that would like try to like sneak a peek of a woman like in a bathtub or a shower or a locker room. That's why we have different areas, of course.
Yeah, so it seems like since they can't do that because they're not close enough to that person or whatever, this is the second best thing you're settling for.
Yeah, just like porn is the next best thing to sex. That's why people jerk off to porn, is because they can't find people to fuck sometimes.
Could I propose a situation? So let's say that
I don't necessarily agree with that though. I think that line of logic isn't the greatest. I think the way that you look at it, even with people having access to a lot of porn of specific porn actors, there's still like markets for deep faking porn actors onto porn or whatever to be able to like get them to say or do specific things. Like, just because somebody has sexualized themselves to a point where you might feel like to the point of porn doesn't mean that every single fantasy that somebody could have of that person has been depicted in their pornography. In fact, it never means that. And so there's still going to be people who try and deepfake, try and do whatever.
Somebody's really interested in a girl, but they can't get like pictures of that girl, and it's not like they would try to anyways, but they find out that the girl's twin sister is like a porn star. Is looking at the porn of the twin sister and imagining the sister, like, is that bad?
You're saying imagining the twin sister as an actual sister?
Yeah.
I think so. I view it similarly to the way that I view okay, so you have parody porn or whatever, which is its own like little gray classification. And then you have, if you theoretically had a porn where, let's say a porn star who her whole career is trying to be as close to the streamer as possible. So she has her room set up like that streamer. She makes her hair look like that streamer. She uses the same, phrases that streamer uses, like everything as much as possible, and is producing that porn. Then I think like that's wrong.
Because you're stealing somebody's likeness and you're profiting off of it. That's a completely different situation.
Essentially trying to take that image and sexualize it for yourself or whatever. That was very bad phrasing. But I think when it comes to the twin sister example, if you're viewing that as the twin you want to fuck or whatever, I do think there's something wrong there. If it just happens to be somebody who looks like the twin sister or the twin, am I phrasing this correctly? I feel like I'm not phrasing.
Yeah, that's right. If I like throw a spooky phrase at you, do you just not care? Because we're talking about is essentially like we're really talking about thought crimes here. Do you not care? Like, do you think that some thoughts like should be immoral just by virtue of only having the thought alone, or do you not?
I would draw a separation between thought and actual actions. So there's a difference between just like thinking somebody is hot, and this is why I also even think the twin example doesn't completely work, because you can say like that's weird or that's not the best thought, but thoughts are more malleable, they change. Some are intrusive, some are not. But then there's a difference between that and between being like, I am actually going to take the time of my day to get this image of a person, render it like onto a porn star's face, like match the actions, so I could just jerk off to it. Like, you are taking concrete physical steps in the world that go beyond the mental realm, where the mental realm is just a lot more malleable, comes and goes. You can't have nobody can have like perfect thoughts or like a completely like morally pure.
Yeah, but I feel like you're loading on, I'm gonna use the G word, gish galloping. I feel like you're loading on a bunch of arguments where none of these things you truly believe in that much. So like when you say like the thoughts are imperfect, like what about somebody with photographic memory? Would it be immoral for them to jerk off to somebody since they have a perfect recreation of that person in their head? I don't think does that meaningfully change things for you? Or I don't think photographic memory is even real, but let's say it was. Like, would it be immoral for that person to masturbate to women?
It just maybe this is just something I have to like read more about and explain more about. But to me, there just seems to be a very stark difference between what you're thinking and versus what you're putting out there. So I think if something is staying like into the mental realm, even if it's perfect memory, whatever, to me there is a distinction or line to be drawn there versus taking a physical act or more physical actions.
What about really detailed fan fictions?
Yeah, that's a good one.
I think really detailed fan fictions comes into a more like morally gray area as well.
Well, why is it great?
Why?
There are a lot of girls who, like, growing up will, like, be fans of boy bands and stuff, and they'll write, like, detailed fan fiction about their favorite characters and stuff like that. So, like, that could be a very good example of, like, somebody taking their thoughts and putting it and, like, expressing it in the real world. But it's still not something that goes beyond their own use.
Well, I'm curious what you mean by morally gray. Like, explore that, because it seemed like you were willing to say that scrolling through a person's Instagram looking for bikini pictures to masturbate to, that was wrong. But so if you're willing to take a stance on that, how is the detailed fanfic thing morally gray? I feel like that would be an easy like, oh, that's just wrong.
I think this just goes back to the fact that our brain processes images and words differently. So for example, when you read a book, your imagination can take control. Oh my God, so many people are calling. Okay. Your imagination takes control, right? You fill in a bunch of blanks. Even if you try to be the most detailed as you possibly can, your imagination is still taking over control to some extent. That's why people can read 2 of the same book and then still have different images of what exactly happened. Versus an actual image, your brain is just directly processing that image.
Yeah, but it's all still like, I don't see how the jump is meaningful. Like when you look at a person in a bikini, you're using your imagination there too as well, right? You're probably not imagining the person in the bikini. You're looking at them in the bikini so you can imagine them naked.
Correct.
Yeah, and this goes back to the fact that I think it's like a sliding scale, or that's why I keep like looping back to the whole, oh yeah, like it's trying. I feel I want to like explore.
Well, also, doesn't this ignore? Didn't she say earlier that simply the idea of masturbating to somebody when they don't want you to is bad? Didn't she say that earlier? That just simply the idea of, and that's how their first thought crime thing came up? She said it was wrong to masturbate to the idea of somebody if they didn't want you to?
Is more, because I feel like there is something there to the whole like trying to get as close as possible, because I think there is a level where it's like, okay, like, you know, this is like fairly harmless, it's just like, you know, in your imagination, or you're using like the picture or whatever, but there's not that level of intentionality.
Well, yeah, careful with some of the words, because the intentionality is there. It's still the same intentionality, it's just a different amount of effort being put in, right? Like, I'm a shit artist. If I wanted to draw porn of somebody, it's gonna be fucking stick figures. But if somebody's a better artist, can draw a better picture, the intentionality is still exactly the same. One person is just more technologically adept than I am.
Okay, so yeah, maybe the right word is the effort to put in, to have that fantasy be as realistic as possible.
I have the similar position to Pixie, but I came in to bite an even harder bullet, I think. And I don't think you should jerk off fantasizing to women. Is that your position, Pixie? Or is that more extreme?
I think that's a little bit more extreme, but I think most porn is unethical. I think only ethical porn might be like OnlyFans or shit like that. So maybe I'm in the same boat as you, but we'll see.
Yeah, you should even jerk off. Okay, relax. But I will agree with pornography, because that's creating a direct product, but I'll get into that in a second. The harm, Bethany, you were talking about harm. I think the harm in fantasizing about women and jerking off to them, I think is baked into the social contract. Because if we're saying that by participating in society, meaning just existing, gives people carte blanche to kind of objectify and sexualize you, even in their minds, I don't think we can justify that.
I don't think that's objectifying someone.
I mean, I would flip.
Like policing somebody's mind, though. You can't, like in that same, just because they have the ability to do that.
I don't believe it's objectifying someone to just imagine having sex with them. I don't believe this is objectifying. This is not what we're trying to safeguard, at least typically what we should be trying to safeguard against when we're talking about objectifying someone. Objectifying somebody is like reducing them down to maybe only their physical appearance or their sexual characteristics, and not regarding their human rights. Like it would be like me selling somebody into sex slavery, me potentially sexually assaulting somebody, me stating that somebody's feelings about sexual assault or rape or something like that aren't valid, because that's what they should like. Sex is good even if it's unconsensual. These are examples of like objectifying somebody. Treating them as though their only value is what they provide sexually, things like that.
In their head doesn't mean that we have any right to say what they can and can't do in their head.
Yeah, I would flip it, and I would say that I would live in a society where you don't have a right to dictate my thoughts.
That's.
I feel like
I think it's okay.
We do live in a society where we kind of consider certain things like not thought crimes necessarily, but like say when people go to another culture and there's like some nice religious ceremony and it has certain meaning to them, and the context for that is perceived one way, and then like people, like a bunch of white people go over and are like, ew, whoa, what weird like tribal shit. We recognize that that's like really not.
Well, to say, or maybe that it stems from like a prejudiced position, not that like you shouldn't be able to have those thoughts. I would hope that people wouldn't say that.
Understanding the context and it's not giving appropriate respect to something.
Yeah,
so
I feel like that illustrates my point exactly though. So like typically, like I'm thinking of like a saying you would say to a kid is, if a kid were to say something like that, you would never say like, don't think that, or that's rude to think. You would say, keep it to yourself. If you don't have anything nice to say, don't say anything at all. I think that the issue that you're bringing up there, it doesn't have to do with the bad thought, it has to do with them actually expressing it, like saying something.
I think it's also the bad thought that you don't want them to go on to continue thinking that though. Even internally, I think that's negative.
Well, yeah, but
I mean, it depends on what their reason for not liking the culture or whatever is.
Explain why.
Be careful. We're trying to talk about what's bad and what's good. In terms of we want somebody to do something, that's a fundamentally different question. Do we want people to do a whole bunch of things, but in terms of is it bad to think a thought? It is bad to verbalize a negative thought about somebody. That's probably a bad thing. If I say you're ugly, we can say that's a bad thing to verbalize the thought. But is it bad to think the thought? Bad is different than, what do we want them to think? I think it's fundamentally different.
I feel like thoughts generally lead to like behaviors and actions, so I think yeah.
They could be, but then again, the problem isn't the thought. The problem is the thought cultivating action. Again, I think what you're saying there's reinforcement. Saying it's not the thought that's bad; it's that it could lead to a bad action, which is why like Jack Thompson hunted video games for so long, or why some people don't like porn because they think it gives you bad thoughts of women, et cetera, et cetera. Yeah, which is valid. That's a lot of people wrestle with those issues. What were you saying, Sejan?
I was gonna say, comment real quickly that having thoughts don't necessarily dictate actions. There's like pretty good literature on this, but like even
hold on, wait. You gotta expand on that way more, because what you just said is either pretty true or completely and totally false. What do you mean?
Just because you have certain attitudes towards things doesn't mean that they'll manifest in reality. There's a paper on this from the 60s where like this guy drove around with his Asian friends to different hotels all across the country, and he would call ahead of time to see if they would accept non-white people in their hotels and motels, and 97% of them said that they would not accept for like non-white people in their establishment. But when they actually showed up and like booked the room, they made no comment on it. So like their attitude was we don't allow non-whites here, but their actual behavior was it's totally fine.
I think those are two completely different questions. A stated preference versus what somebody will do in an actual moment is different than like if you have certain thoughts, will they over time mold your opinions of things? I feel like, I don't know what research I could cite here, I'm going intuitively, but it must be true that if you're exposed to certain thoughts over long periods of time, eventually it's going to start to dictate the types of actions you take, right? It's like, that's like the archetypical, like if you hang on a pole all day saying, you know, jokes about Indians shitting in the street, eventually you're probably going to have like or you're going to be more receptive to shitty thoughts about like Indians or something, right? I feel like that's pretty well accepted, no?
I mean,
it needs a little bit more, is what I'm saying.
Yeah, I was gonna say, Mr. Miscellaneous is thinking exactly. Yeah, so they're little quiet about racism when they meet you. It's like saying that like the people who talk shit to you online, when they show up to you and they meet you face to face and they don't talk shit to you, it's like because they were like cowards. Or sorry, not because they were cowards. It's because they didn't mean it. In reality, they could just be cowards, right? Like, oh, they didn't mean all that shit they talked to me because the moment they were face to face with me, they didn't talk shit. It's like, no, they could just, be like cowardly.
It primes you.
Yeah, it primes you. And that's why I think thought policing is different here. I think it's okay to think whatever you want, right? But when you are intentionally trying to conjure up an image of somebody in order to arouse yourself sexually, I think that there's so much intentionality there that we can start policing that a little bit socially, not like through any physical body, but socially we can.
So is your entire argument predicated on the idea that eventually these thoughts are going to take hold into something worse then, or?
The harm here, I think, is baked into the social contract. I don't think we want to have people participate in a society where just by existing in it, you give other people carte blanche to sexually objectify you, sexualize and objectify you in their minds.
Yeah, I don't care. I think the reality, as Destiny put it, the opposite reality is far worse. The reality where your thoughts are being policed. I think this is a necessary lesson to learn about life, is that you can't control how other people think of you. I think this is an important stepping stone in learning how to be a human being. You can never get rid of this. No matter how much you try, you cannot thought police your way out of this lesson that every person needs to learn. You can try as hard as you want. You are never going to be able to control how everyone thinks of you. There's going to be people that just nothing you can do, they're not going to like you. Or there's nothing you can do, maybe they will like you,
Okay, I disagree with that, but yeah, who else wants to jump in? Because I feel like that, it's going to start us at the opposite end of that is going to be society. We accept that people might believe thoughts that you really don't like or think things you don't like, but you have to live with that. That's part of being in society. I don't know if part of our social contract is you don't have the right to think thoughts about me that I don't want you to think.
Yeah, especially if we think about involuntary thoughts, right? How many people have involuntary thoughts?
Well, involuntary thoughts is boring. Nobody cares about it. If you have an involuntary thought, nobody's going to hold you responsible for that, right? I think.
But to me, this is the thing about
you can fantasize about someone by accident, I think.
Well, but nobody would care about that. No, people say whatever. That's a whatever thing. We're talking about the intentional thoughts, I think. Yeah. If you're going to hold somebody responsible for things that just pop in their head, that's dumb. No, that's
Why should you be able to have explicitly sexual thoughts about somebody that doesn't present themselves in that way?
I think the default should be anything. You can think about anything you want, and it's the onus on somebody else to say why you shouldn't be able to think about a thing. You should be able to imagine whatever you want, and if you shouldn't be allowed to, somebody else should have to say, right? Because if we have the domain of anything, it should be of things in our mind, right?
I agree.
So the question would have to be why shouldn't you be allowed to think sexually about people?
It just seems to me, I feel like we're kind of getting a little bit off track, because the whole idea is oh yeah, if it's just a fantasy, but it's not just a fantasy. That's a problem. People are taking steps, realistic steps to make it. I guess you're saying a realistic fantasy, but it seems like there's a little bit more going on here than just a realistic fantasy, because you're literally trying to. I keep repeating the same phrase, so I'll just stop. But
what if it's not realistic? What if it's maybe it looks like it's a deep fake, but parts of it are just completely out of
parody and
realm of
cartoonish
possibility with physics.
Honestly, I would feel so much more comfortable with that if somebody deepfaked my face onto a furry porn, whatever thing.
Well, not like that. What I'm saying is for example, they do a deepfake of you, right? And it looks like a naked human body, but it's like a naked human body contorted into a completely impossible shape.
I'm not sure.
I don't even know what the point of this hypothetical is.
I think if somebody did a deep fake of me, but it was like a dragon or something that was
I don't know if you guys are aware,
that'd be okay.
stream got fucked up.
What? No, it's just YouTube blips for some reason sometimes. I don't know why. It's just.
Oh, sorry. It was fucking for me too.
Fucking
I
loser.
think that's bad because like your face is like 80% of your body in terms of like what we actually kind of like value. Like if you lined up,
not in porn,
and
okay.
and they all look like one of your friends, and your friend was in the lineup, you can probably pick out your friend just by their face most of the time. But if it was like their face was blocked out, it was just their body, I don't think you could reliably pick out your friend from that lineup. I think the face is so important to our conception of like what a person is physically.
Sure. Steve could. He can tell a titty size.
What the fuck?
I don't know. I'm sorry.
Okay, what if it's somebody makes like an AI porn completely generated, but it looks like somebody that they know. Like even the face is generated, but they make it look like somebody they know.
I think intentionality there is what matters, right? If you're starting to label it as the other person. But if it's completely randomly generated, I think that's fine. No?
Yeah, it's a difference between like a porn star that happens to look like a streamer and a porn star that is purposely trying to be a streamer or trying to look like a specific streamer. There's a difference between like, oh, coincidence, it looks like someone I know, and oh no, I'm gonna try to make it close as possible to look like someone I know.
And I think also perception of that distinction, knowing that that people will see it and know that it's not you, know that there's a distinct difference.
I don't know that they're like.
I think that's important. I think what Pepstar just put out there is really important, that people know that there's a difference. So then that just qualifies that as long as we label the deepfake a deepfake and it's not the real thing, then I think we're cash money.
I don't know if I explained it properly, but it would look just like the person. The only difference is that you didn't take their face and deepfake it onto somebody's body.
So you're not taking the information from an image, but where are you taking it from?
You're generating it through some program or something like that.
Are you saying what if you randomly generated like a porn image and it happened to look like someone else? Is that what you're saying?
Not randomly, like let's say you have the ability to make like a face on a porn image and you purposely make it look as much like somebody else.
So you just customize a video game character to look like a celebrity. Why not just say it that way?
It's not like the same as taking somebody's face and pasting it, but you're still like aiming for a specific look.
It's like the same thing with extra steps though, right?
Yeah, I mean essentially.
Yeah.
Cool, we're in agreement. We did it.
What's your fastest time now, Moot?
53 minutes, but I've just been getting unlucky, man.
Damn, that sounds pretty unlucky.
Yeah, I think yesterday I was in the Nether like 6 or 7 times, and I didn't get a single fortress or bastion near me. So you know.
Wow.
What are you gonna do?
I feel like that never happens when I watch XQC.
Yeah, he's probably got a modified save file.
Wow. Big accusations.
Little dreaming. How's it been?
Okay, just memeing and streaming.
Memeing and streaming. Is the factory done today?
I'm trying, but I got slowed down with all the deepfake talk, so here we are.
Yeah, well, you got people in here now talking and
True,
doing
that's
shit,
right.
so you can
Making
focus.
content, that's right.
Yeah, you can focus good.
What else? What other thoughts do we have in here, guys?
I have one.
So,
come on, guys, produce it.
I do have one last. I guess. Did we come to a decision on the twin thing? Whether that was okay?
One thing is weird, and I was thinking about this literally on the car drive home yesterday. Is like, when you're a twin, you don't really own your own image, right? You share an image with someone else. In terms of your physical features, like you can present your physical features differently than your twin, but you don't. You're like your genetic material that dictates your image is literally the same.
Yeah, but I think twins still see themselves as distinctly separate people.
I agree. They are different people, but we are greater than the physical summation of our parts. But they share those physical parts.
You have a twin and you're identical, and one of them makes an OnlyFans and starts selling. Should the other get payment?
I think morally,
you are so dumb.
Kind of.
No,
that's
the answer
really
is
hard. No,
obviously
wait,
the answer is obviously no, because even though a twin might share genetic material and even have a similar body, they distinctly have their own identity.
Yeah, and they own their own labor.
Twin is a like celebrity and they're impersonating them. Then now we're getting back into like deepfake stuff.
So just to like go back, I think you guys were talking about porn stars who purposely look alike or will look like specific actors or specific public figures. In some sense, like, is that okay? And how does that compare to the twin argument?
I feel like we're just like kind of looping again because it's not okay because you're again using somebody's image for your like basically self-profit. It's not really your image. You're trying to take somebody else's.
I think the only exception to this rule is if like you were both portraying some sort of like fictional character, and that fictional character has like physical traits that are described in the text, or in some abstract way.
Oh yeah, then you're not trying to imitate another person. You're trying to imitate like a character, like complete fiction.
What are you guys even arguing about?
All right, well, I feel like this is boiled down. Well, you got to start paying your brother because you're a twin and you're sharing his image, apparently. I don't know. I don't feel like any of these arguments are really moving anywhere.
What's your take, Mr. Newton?
I don't even know what you guys are talking about.
Do you think creating deepfake porn is ethical?
I don't care.
Wow, brave. What a brave take, Mooten. Nice job. Tell us what else you don't care about. That nurses aren't heroes?
Yeah, I don't care about that either.
Nice. Good one.
Fuck nurses.
Wow.
You don't care right now, but what if you have a daughter in the future? Don't you want to sort this out right now?
Ooh, nope. Wow.
Really? Why not?
Why do I give a fuck?
If someone like creates deepfake porn of your daughter in the future?
Don't care. That's a future Mooten problem. It's not a right now problem. Deepfake porn is like weird if you're creating it of your friends, but I don't think like it's like a big fucking deal. I don't know. People go online to talk about and argue about things that just happens so little that I just really don't give a fuck. It's not a big deal.
Maybe something that happens more frequently in the future, right?
I think all this is
cool. Goddamn Giga Chad.
in the context of what's going to matter in the future. Like if we have AI bots like imitating more and more of us, I think we're going to have bigger problems, and it's better to be proactive about them.
I feel like maybe this goes to entitlement, and maybe that's my biggest problem when it comes to creating the deepfake. It's that I feel like people feel as entitled as possibly can to get as close to the real thing, instead of just saying like, okay, no, I'll just keep it in my fantasy, or I'll just keep it in my head. It's okay, no, I feel like I should get the most realistic version of this as possible and close to reality.
Who cares? What does this have to do with entitlement? Like, entitled to what? I'm entitled to my own labor? Like, what am I entitled to in this scenario?
They can, and you know, if I could do it, I would take just the
you have a good one, Tom.
I would take them myself, but I can't do that, so we're gonna go to this instead.
Yeah, but I think that entitlement argument, any argument like that, is always going to cut both ways. To where it's like you feel entitled to me having a fantasy in my mind, or you feel entitled to me thinking personal thoughts or whatever. But
yeah,
you know what my problem is? Half the time when I cut in here, it just sounds like a bunch of AI talking to each other. Someone says something, another person responds in just completely unintelligible, absolute nonsense, and just like is throwing like point after point out.
yeah, give us an example. What was something that said it was nonsense? Go ahead.
They said, or
something that was said. Yeah, what's something that was said that was nonsense in here? Let's hear it, Mooten.
I didn't get it ready. Hey, I didn't get it ready. Hey, let me cook. Hold on. I'll get you an example tomorrow when I'm listening. Okay, I promise. But I can give an example. When Rage Pope came in and he started accusing
somebody who's not even here. Okay.
Did I say this time?
I mean,
yeah.
No, the implication is almost every time.
Oh, okay. So it wasn't happening at all this time. You thought this
last time
was really good.
Last time I was in here, Rage Pope came in and he started accusing the Piss Cup guy that he said something that he absolutely didn't. Rage Pope just came in for fucking dunks. Okay.
Yeah. Wow.
That's true. True. Do you remember that, Steve?
Mr. Mooten, it sounds like you came in here just for dunks. You just came in here to shit on some people and just.
I came in. Yes, I did.
Shit on them and get out.
Yes, I did.
Does he say Pisco? Is that what he's trying to say?
Yeah.
Have you heard of Fat Mel?
No.
Okay, people started photoshopping a lot of pictures of Melina just being fat, and they were funny, and it was like a funny thing in the community. But like, let's say that she didn't like that. Do you think it would be unethical to make those types of drawings, like parody drawings of people, if they didn't want to be drawn that way?
That's a good question. I feel like this is gonna sound so arbitrary.
I feel like it could be. I feel like in that sense, it could be like bullying. Yeah, I feel like that you could be like bullying, depending on how it's like being done.
To you guys, that's honestly what I think.
Like if it's like trying to say haha Mel is actually fat, or if it's trying to be like haha fat Mel because like I don't know, she had a weird take about food. It really does depend. I would need to see the context of the thing. But she's not actually fat. Yeah, but like most women aren't actually fat who like are very concerned with their weight. Just to be clear, people, but I'm talking about I think women do have a unique relationship with weight and body image.
I think if you're gonna make a
all the fake photos of Destiny being shorter than he is, to the point he doesn't actually know if it's real or fake photos of him, is that bullying? It can be.
Of someone, it should be based on some sort of like internal characteristic they have than just like external. I know that sounds really weird, but to me it's like, okay, like making it, or maybe it goes back to the fact that like body disorders are, I don't say super common, but pretty prevalent. There's a difference between making fun of somebody for some of the stupid shit they've said and then making fun of somebody for exaggerated features of how they look. Or maybe you guys just disagree with me and don't think there's a difference. But yeah, I think if Melina was like, hey, like these photos are like causing me like a lot of like mental damage, not just mental damage, you know, like they're like physically like jarring or whatever, then people should stop it. But I feel like when it comes to personal characteristics of like who you are or like things that you say, then you shouldn't be immune from criticism in that way because that's part of personal growth. While when it comes to physical features, that's a lot harder to change.
Why is there? Wait, real quick, Pixie, your mic is fucked. I don't know what you're taling about right now. But okay, sorry. What is Art by Pet? What do you want to say?
Oh, regardless of whether it ends up like being perceived as funny because it's like not that impactful, the intent, if the intent like is to bully, like we know bullying isn't great.
True.
Do you believe that we should be in full control of the inputs we put into the world?
Of what? Of ourselves?
Yeah.
No.
That'd be nice, but probably not.
It's not realistic.
The answer is no.
It doesn't matter if it's like realistic.
Yeah, I don't care if it's realistic or not. No. The answer to me is no. Because then, again, we get into the quantum TV thing where it's like, I made a bad review of Elden Ring, and now I don't want anyone to say anything bad about me at all. And you don't have the right to, otherwise you violate my consent. No, absolutely not.
I don't know, it should be. Like, what if somebody wants to put out, like, a thing that's false, for instance? Like, I'm sure there's a very racist person that would want to convince the whole world that they're not racist, right? Should they have the right to do
Wait,
that?
weren't we just talking about Fat Mel?
They should have the right to do that, no?
What's wrong with Fat Mel?
Why no? We did it. We did the AI thing. We just did it right there.
Well, we're nibbling around the edges to see where people's feelings are.
No, it was just there. It just happened. Don't make me sound crazy.
But this is related.
Are you okay, Mooten?
No, because I don't understand. You guys use such huge words and you say nothing. That's the issue. Is I listen, and I'm the average viewer, okay? You know, I dropped out of college, but I got some college in me. But you guys will go on a tangent for like 5 minutes in something that you could have said in about 4 seconds.
That's so deep.
That's my problem.
That was
That's my problem. That's it. That's my whole issue.
That was
I just want
so
people to be more concise.
deep, King. Okay.
I just want people to be more concise.
You are.
I'm not even trying to. Steve.
All right. I think I'm done with this. This is kind of devolved. I didn't hear any convincing arguments that I haven't already explored, which makes me feel more and more every day like my opinion on this shit is the right one. But I'll keep exploring it. Okay. I'm gonna go ahead and go. I gotta go to the gym. I'll be back tomorrow. Something I wanted to start. I'm probably gonna download install Stalker Gamma tonight. Maybe Dead Space. Maybe. And then I'm probably gonna play it tomorrow. Either that or I might end up playing The Long Dark. I want to try and wake up earlier and do it like really, really early. That's the intent. So yeah, all right. You guys have a good rest of your day. I'll see you guys tomorrow. We're gonna start. I want to start doing more game streams and doing more curated, like all of this, like talking about like various political topics. I want it to be more curated YouTube videos. So my streams, I want to develop more into like hangout, video games, maybe community stuff, like playing with people in Discord and talking to people in Discord while I stream, more like hangout stuff. And then like my YouTube be curated like YouTube videos. I want to do that. That's a direction I'm heading in. That's the direction I've discussed with other people, like my editors, on like where I want to head. That's what I want to do. Oh yeah, also follow my Instagram. Thank you for reminding me, or for putting that in the chat, Xina. Yeah, follow my Instagram. I recently started an Instagram that I care about getting some followers on it. I'm gonna post some of my photos that I was using on dating apps later in there. That's primarily where I was developing my photo taking game, was just like literally deleting and then recreating my like dating app accounts within like 5 days, just deleting them, recreating them, deleting them, recreating them, for the purpose of testing photos and seeing which ones did better, performed better. But yeah, I have a couple that performed pretty well. If you want to see updates of those or like what those are, follow the Instagram. Follow me on Twitter as well. But yeah, for now, I'm gonna go ahead and go. All right. Have you ever used Photo Feller to? I've heard of that thing. I don't know. No, I don't know anything about it. I might look it up though. Let me get a quick Google search. Photo Feeler. Get unbiased feedback. Is this from like other humans? Oh, it is. It's other humans, I think. Wait, is it other humans? Real people vote on your photo. Oh, okay. All right. I'll have to maybe give that a try. All right. You guys have a good rest of your day. I'll see you guys later. Yeah?